My wife recently had wine spilled on her by my best friend during our wedding. Now she is demanding that I cut ties. I, 33M, and my best friend Ailey, 31F, met through a mutual friend in 2012 during a pub quiz at university. I was quite attracted to her and actually told her so at the end of the evening, but she told me she had a boyfriend even though she was flattered all the same. Fast forward 3 years later. I meet Eliza at the Edinburgh Fringe and we just clicked immediately. Politics, music, cinema, whatever the subject approached, there was a spark that I'd never felt with anyone else. Like she just made sense with me. Her personality was just vivid. It's hard to describe but I'll try. On first impression, she was so knowledgeable and enthusiastic, I was taken aback by her intensity. From that point onwards we were inseparable and I was dead certain of our future together long before we got engaged. Enter Ailey again. I start a new job at an advertising firm with a position in web design and she was one of the only people I knew. At first it was a little awkward given our history, especially considering that she was now married to the boyfriend she was dating back then. But there was no one else I knew at the firm and we both had partners at this point, so it couldn't hurt to be friends, right? And to be honest, I'm glad because I feel like our chemistry as friends superseded any potential we might have had as a couple. She's clever and has a bit of a cheeky personality. I'm quite dry and sarcastic myself, so I reckon we have a pretty fun dynamic. Eliza doesn't seem to feel that way, though. Sometimes when it's been the three of us she has expressed a feeling of being left out or that Ailey has been making fun of her. I don't see it, it's just our dynamic, but there have been a couple of nights where Eliza's been in tears because of something that Ailey has said. One time Eliza got out of her seat and Ailey sat down where she was sitting to show me a video on YouTube. When Eliza came back in she saw Ailey leaning next to me and was upset for the rest of the night. Sometimes there have been times when Ailey has said something that Eliza has read as a come on. Like when I said I missed swimming because I felt out of shape, Ailey said the two of us should go together with a playful punch. Eliza didn't say anything at the time but her discomfort was visible. Things really came to a head though on our wedding and I think the stress of it really got to Eliza. During the reception Ailey bumped into her and red wine spilled all over her dress. She was bawling the entire evening. We're now on our honeymoon and Eliza has said she hopes for a fresh start but she feels like Ailey might have spilled her wine on purpose. She's suggesting that I cut ties with her and if I'm honest I'm not so sure I want to. Update 1. I sat down with Eliza and we had an in-depth conversation about the wedding incident. I got her to describe the event step by step in her own words. I was leaving the lobby into the dining venue and Ailey was a little tipsy at this point and already stumbling from the bar. She was initially walking slower but seemed to speed up when she saw me. We collided into each other and she pulled an ashamed face and made a joke about me before scurrying away. She seemed embarrassed in the moment but she didn't apologize to me. I heard from other people that she was appalled about what happened but I never heard anything from her directly. It just paints a picture of habitual microaggressions from her that has festered into this ugly anxiety whenever she's around. I pretty much predict whenever I'm in her vicinity, there will be weird behavior or uncomfortable comments and I don't want to continue being in a situation where my husband brings someone into my home, who resents me simply for existing. That was a real gut punch to me. For me I always felt like it was just insecurity about me fancying Ailey for 10 minutes years ago but Eliza is really torn up about this. She said that the honeymoon has been miserable because the memory has been swirling around in her mind and she feels like I'm going to downplay or dismiss it. No one should feel like they can't just be themselves, especially not at home. I didn't realize what a shithead I'd been and I apologized profusely to Eliza and decided to phone up Ailey to confront her about the wedding incident. So I did and it didn't go well. Basically I told her that Eliza was really hurt by the wedding dress incident, that she had been hurt by her behavior for a long time and that if she can't bring herself to apologize to Eliza's face at least she should pay towards getting the stain removed, and if she couldn't bring herself to even do that then our friendship had to stop. To say that Ailey was taken aback would be an understatement. She was completely blindsided, asking what was wrong with their interactions that made me want to go to such extremes. I mentioned the leapfrog comment and she went but even you call her that, stating that Eliza called her Garfield cause of her weight and bright orange hair. When I mentioned that she ran towards Eliza and didn't apologize for spilling wine on her, she got really upset and started shouting that she wasn't running at her to hurl wine at her dress, she was running from her because she didn't want to talk at that moment because she feels like Eliza hates her and she doesn't know how to go about it. She started pointing out times when Eliza had been funny towards her and I basically said right, but this isn't about when Eliza has hurt you, this is about when you've hurt Eliza and it's got so bad that it needs to be talked about and she started laughing. It was really uncomfortable. I know she does this when she's anxious about something. Eliza asked me if things were okay from the other room and Ailey demanded if this was set up and when I tried to explain myself, she hung up. Her husband even phoned me, insisting that he would pay for the damage if it is less stressful for me. So him and Ailey will pay towards dry cleaning, whilst a condolences hamper is sent to Eliza. Update 2. Ailey and me aren't talking anymore, and it's probably for the best. Eliza and me received the condolences hamper in the post and it was primarily soaps. Not in the sense of fragrant body lotions or luxury packages, or even organic bars, just regular, run-of-the-mill soaps. There were 2 dispensers that were faintly rose-scented but it was so mild you had to really look for it. There were several white soap bars that didn't smell of anything. Really, it was so confusing. The only items that suggested it was a proper gift basket were a 6-pound bottle of Chardonnay and a box of Roses chocolates that looked a fair deal more effort than the cleaning equipment at the nearest pub. The weirdest item though? A pair of women's underpants. Not lingerie, not anything lacy or risque, just a plain pair of white pants. They were actually kind of grubby, there was a faint orange lining on them. It just didn't make sense to me because if they were meant to be for Eliza, they were at least 6 sizes too big. And if Ailey really was making a move on me, they were again around 6 sizes too big. Also, why would she choose such disgusting pants to try and seduce me? It weirded me out so much I rang up Ailey, asking why I had soap and grubby knickers in our condolences hamper. She kept making dry remarks to her husband about there being a strange noise on the other end of the phone. I didn't get anywhere with her and insisted that Ewan should talk to me instead because getting anywhere with her was like pulling teeth at this rate. After some disgruntled remarks, she passed the phone over. Ewan asked what was up and I explained the whole situation. He was momentarily surprised when I described the hamper as looking like the luggage of a janitor that lived under a bridge. He said that it was a small package, but there should have been several luxury gifts that weren't simply sanitary items. Apparently there was a bottle of Chardonnay, a bottle of Shiraz, 1 box of rose chocolates, a Lindt bar, a selection of crackers and some assorted cheeses. Somehow that got replaced with leftover soaps bought in bulk and his wife fronts that Ailey found ever so hilarious and apparently found ever so hilarious to send to my wife. He was hugely apologetic and embarrassed, stating that he'd pay us the cost towards the lost items. I was raging at this point but I tried to be collected and said right, let me talk to Ailey again please and he got her on the line. I told her that she had the chance to make it right and she blew it, and she groaned and told me that Eliza's jealousy has crippled our friendship and she was sick of having to flatter her insecurities. I said no, you were Eliza's insecurities and we rode for a bit. Eventually it ended with me saying that this had been building up for a while and that her attitude had been giving Eliza grief for years. Ailey said none of this would be happening if Eliza knew how to take a joke and I just told her that a joke isn't ruining her wedding dress and then sending her your husband's stinky wife fronts. She said I sold out my principles for a girl who's threatened by other women. After the phone call Eliza was not so much hurt as she was confused at first, because she was wondering if there was a mix-up until I explained to her the joke. She seemed pretty much resigned to the idea that Ailey would always be a shit, and I told her the likelihood of that happening was very slim considering she's cut me off for standing up for her. I think the counseling has made us stronger and in a weird way I'm glad this happened. Because if your friendship falls apart the moment you try to protect your loved ones, then they probably weren't that strong friendships at all.